Old School Lane Casual Chats is brought to you by oldschoollane.blogspot.com and is associated with Channel Frederator, Manic Expression, The Comic Book Cast, and The Arun Mehta Show. Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of Casual Chats. I am Patricia and I'm here with a few special guests. For our returning guests, we have Whyboy and Nero from ToonGrin, so welcome back, guys.
Hello, great to be here.
What is up, peeps?
And we have ourselves a brand new guest joining us. So he does his own podcast and he is known as Mike Mixtape, so welcome, Mike.
Hey, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So today's podcast, we're going to be talking about a topic that we haven't discussed in a while. Since I did my, I think it was the Nintendo GameCube's Memory podcast, where we discussed about video games. So this time around, we're talking about Ratchet and Clank in honor of its 15th anniversary. They're talking about the video game franchise, not to be confused with the movie of the same name. So yeah, right before we discuss about the franchise as a whole, Mike, since you're a new guest, why don't you talk about how you first got introduced to Ratchet and Clank?
You know, I was a young 12-year-old when I got the PlayStation 2, and a bunch of games were along with it, and Ratchet and Clank was among the midst of it. I played it for a while, then I ended up getting the second and third one later on. I just felt like as a gamer, I just clicked to it right away.
Awesome. And Whyboy, how did you get into it?
Well, I got into the PS2 as well when I was younger, but I didn't play the first Ratchet and Clank game. The first one I played was Deadlock, I believe. And I just really loved it, even though I didn't fully understand the story. The game mechanics and such really just drew me into it. And I just loved the games ever since. Never got around to the later systems, though, unfortunately.
That's fine. How about you, Nero?
Sheer accident. I pretty much grew up poor. So when I eventually got around to a PlayStation 2 at some point, and by that point I got around to it, I think everyone was already onto the next gen. And I was like, okay, well, I'm into 3D platformers. You know, I enjoyed like Jak and Daxter, Crash Bandicoot, Medieval, and I remember like I was at GameStop and I came across this, game that looked like it was just some kind of interesting mammal creature with a little robot companion, and from that I was like, oh, okay, well, what the hell? It's no weirder than the plumber, I suppose.
Sure.
And I played the first game, and, it had Kevin Michael Richardson as the lead bad guy in there, and then, like, James Arnold Taylor, I believe, is Ratchet, and David Kaye is Clank, and I'm like, oh, I know all these voice actors. And then I went to the second one, and Steve Blum's the main big bad, and I'm like, well, I love Steve Blum, I got to meet that guy. And, it was just really cool because it felt like almost like a who's who of voice actors when you really start to dive into the game and start to play them.
Yeah, definitely. As for me, I got so I've already mentioned this in the Naughty Dog podcast, but for those who don't know, I got the PlayStation like a few years later down the line, and when it came out, Ratchet and Clank was bundled up with Jak and Daxter. And so then I played both of them simultaneously at the same time. And, I played Jak and Daxter with 3D platforming. I had played Ratchet and Clank with the shooting. I already discussed about Jak and Daxter in the Naughty Dog podcast, so you can go listen to our opinions on the trilogy. So now we're talking about Ratchet and Clank, and as for Ratchet and Clank, it was a lot of fun. I remember recalling on playing the game and seeing all the different types of weapons and traveling around the different planets. So yeah, it was actually, it was like during the mascot 3D platform era of the 2000s, where you had the likes of Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, and who was going to be competing to become the PlayStation 2 mascot. And then in the end, to be quite fair, the PlayStation 2 never really gotten like an official mascot. We had the PlayStation 1, we had Crash, and the PlayStation 3, some people argue that it's Nathan Drake, but yeah, the PlayStation 2 never really had like a full-on mascot because there were just so many iconic ones: Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, Kratos from God of War. So
Rasputin from Psychonauts.
Yes, Rasputin. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was just so many of them. So so going into the first game. Now, I've seen a lot of videos covering Ratchet and Clank lately about how the story of Ratchet and Clank is supposed to be like a parody of consumerism. Like, the game is about that you have a chairman named Drek who wants to take pieces of a planet and make his own because the planet that he's running is covered in pollution, and he wants to be able to sabotage a whole bunch of planets so he can create his own. And so we have Ratchet, who lives in this planet known as Veldin, and he's a mechanic, and he just wants to get away from the planet. And then you come Clank, who comes from this planet, this robot planet called Core 2, and he's told about the mission about how Drek is going to be destroying various planets, and he's trying to look for Captain Quark, who's the superhero of the galaxy. And so that's the main what the first half is about, is them looking for Captain Quark. Then we'll discuss a little bit more throughout the podcast. So yeah, I remember when I played this game again a few years ago, and I played it on the PlayStation 3 HD collection, and compared to the other games, I think that the weapons are still pretty good. I think some of them are a little bit underwhelming compared to the weapons that are in the future games. And also, I think that the movement in Ratchet is a little bit stiff compared to, like, you can move so much freely with Ratchet in the later games. Especially when you go over to the metal boots as opposed to, like, the gravity boots in the other games, in which they're so heavy and you can barely jump, as opposed to, like, in the gravity boots, in which it's a lot easier to maneuver. So yeah, little stuff like gameplay-wise were tweaked in in the later games. And the story is actually a pretty nice introduction to Ratchet and Clank and the universe, and just the different characters that are introduced, like Big Al, there's Quark, there's Chairman Drek, there's Ratchet and Clank. So yeah, I think that is a pretty nice start for the first game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I adore it because it's part of that genius simplicity. Like, you have like when you look at Nintendo titles, a lot of their characters, when you kind of get down to it, is that they're kind of basic. Like, Mario is sort of a typical shonen-esque kind of character. He's kind and compassionate, and he's really friendly. He does the right thing, and that's it. Whereas, like, PlayStation's always been about this idea of, like, they need an edge. And it even dates back to, like, the whole Crash Bandicoot. Like, Crash Bandicoot had to be cool, man. He had to be, like, he couldn't be like the other people. It's the same. It's like the Sega mentality, where Sega's like, oh, you guys have that friendly little plumber, that little elf boy. That's nice. But our dude is, like, hardcore and eats chili dogs and runs fast. It's like, they try to make them kind of cool. And it's funny, because Ratchet kind of fits perfectly in the middle. He's everything like Mario. He's friendly. He's kind. But he's a tough, rough little mechanic dude who runs into, like, a little robot.
Yeah, but I even noticed the personalities between, like, the later games and the first game. But in the first game, Ratchet is a bit of a jerk. Like, he talks smack over Clank, especially when they find out about that Captain Quark is actually working for Chairman Drek, and Ratchet and Clank do not have a good relationship whatsoever. They start off fighting, they start off bickering and arguing with one another, they don't agree with what the main goal is. Like, Ratchet is concerned about himself, while Clank wants to save the universe. So, yeah, Ratchet, at some points becomes incredibly unlikable.
Yeah, that carries on, too, when they did the initial reboot in the 2016 adaptation.
So yeah, I think that as villains go, Chairman Drek is okay. I mean, he definitely is like like your stereotypical businessman villain, and he does he does have a pretty diabolical plan in which, when you find out later that the reason why he's building the planet is not for his people, is because he wants to make money off of it. He's being paid.
It's like a resort, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, actually, no. The Poketaru is not a resort. His planet was like this industry planet where it was like covered in pollution, and throughout the game, Ratchet couldn't go in there. He needed the oxygen mask, and then Clank had to go in there, and everything is like covered in like toxic waste and slime and all that kind of stuff. The reason why Drek wants to build up the planet is because he's making money off of every single planet that he creates, and then he's planning on destroying the planet by polluting it, and then he's planning on doing it all over again. So it's like, man, he's basically sacrificing his people just so that he himself can make money off of it. That's kind of cruel.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They changed that in the new one. In the new one, I think he wanted to make some... What was it, Taylor? You wanted to make some kind of, like, theme park or some crap on your planet?
Basically just like a theme park, put on some apartments and all that. Just basically a planet that's fit for him and a bunch of rich people.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I've never seen the movie, nor have I played the video game, so I have no idea what the changes are for the video game to the movie. But that does not sound like Drek whatsoever. I mean, out of all the villains in the video games, Drek was the least funny. He wasn't, like, cracking jokes or, trying to come up with some witty one-liners. He was, like, a straight-up villain.
He's pretty evil incarnate, yeah.
Yeah, it's Quark who's mostly, like, the bumbling sidekick who does, like, all the one-liners and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, even, like, the other villains you get down the line, like, God, I keep forgetting. Is it pronounced Dr. Nefarious?
Yes, Dr. Nefarious.
Yes.
The guy with the elongated head, like, when you get to him, he's... Oh my God! He's hilarious, but like, he's actually pretty demented too, and a racist. So I mean,
yeah, he is. Trying to eliminate all the squishies. Yes.
Courtney Gears. Oh my God, that game is phenomenal.
Oh. Okay, yeah, we'll definitely talk about that later. But yeah, in the first game, Chairman Drek was not supposed to be like the funny, witty bad guy that we've seen in other Ratchet and Clank games. He is serious, he's sadistic, and and of course, I've seen like various videos in which they're trying to say like this is supposed to be like a parody of like over consumerism and corporate gains or whatever. And it's supposed to be like how when Ratchet and Clank sees all the people, they're obsessed with money. Like, especially with the earlier Ratchet and Clank games, like especially with the second and the third one, in which like you have to do these various tasks for bolts. And it's like, oh, I can't give you this unless you pay me for it. So it's like people who are obsessed with money and getting rich. So, you're helping all these people out, and all they want is money in return. And they want to get paid so that they can be able to do like, oh, you want this info box, you know where you go next? Pay me. Oh, you want these shoes so you can be able to walk on, metal walls? You have to pay me. So, yeah, it involves with a lot of money in this. And I guess that does make a lot of sense for people who theorize about Ratchet and Clank being a parody of consumerism. So... yeah, I mean, all the planets are really interesting, too. You have, obviously, Metropolis, which is iconic, and Veldin, and, Planet Core-2, and Orxon, and Poketaru, which is the resort. So, yeah, it does definitely... And also, first time of the series in which, that you can be able to customize the ship, making it look slightly different. It's the only game in the series, obviously, that you cannot upgrade your weapons and you cannot modify it so you can be able to make it shoot faster or whatever. You can do that if you buy the gold bolts, but it's just essentially like more bullets and it's slightly stronger. So I guess that was like the starting point into that. And another thing that I really do like is that they do have like the skill points that if you do certain things you get like an achievement, which is like years before like Microsoft achievements or like PlayStation trophies or something like that. And also, you know, they also have the Insomniac Museum, which was introduced in the second game, where they talk about like behind the scenes stories, levels, and weapons that were cut from the games and stuff like that. So yeah, I also really enjoyed those as well. So yeah, I guess there's not really much to say about the first game. So I think we can go to the second one, which when I played the second one for the first time, I noticed there was like, even though that it came out 1 year after the first game, it felt like it was a completely different game because the looks and the designs of everything was just so different. They really added a lot of things into the second game.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Easily the best, one of the best villains, bar none.
Well, yeah, the villain, I mean, first you have this masked man who kidnaps, like, this little fuzzy creature, and it's, it's revealed to be, her name is Angela, and she's a Lombax, which, in the future series, they pretty much retconned.
She's gone!
Yeah, they retconned because Ratchet is supposed to be the only Lombax in the universe, but...
And apparently he comes from a race of, like, god mechanics that could do all sorts of amazing... Like, they kind of ruined it when they got to the later series because they tried... Everything had to be so grandiose. You know, it couldn't just be a tiny robot. It had to be, like, a robot with the soul of, like, a universal creator. And he couldn't just be, like, a mechanic that just chilled on a planet who wanted more out of his life, like Luke Skywalker. He needed to be, like, this... You're from this super special race of, like, a unique species that were known as, like, the greatest mechanics in the universe.
Yeah, it does become a lot of... It definitely does become heavy-handed in the future series, which, you know, we'll talk about that later. But, yeah, I think that some of the best weapons in the entire series are in the first game. Like, I do like the rocket launcher. I do like the Agents of Doom. I love the Rhino in this one. It's pretty destructive. You have the Sug Cannon. You have, like, the Electric Claw weapon. It's just... There's so many awesome, you know, weapons in the game. It's like, you know, years before you had, like, various customizable weapons in other video games. It's like... You know, if you want to see, like, creative weapons that isn't your stereotypical, oh, this is a rocket launcher, oh, this is an AK-47, oh, this is a shotgun, oh, this is a pistol. So you have Ratchet and Clank that kind of, like, varies up what a weapon could be. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on it, Mike?
Going Commando is easily one of the best in the series, actually, because they elevated from the first movie. Because the weapons, they added 18 new weapons in this game. And the thing with the weapons this time is you can upgrade it with each time you use it, and it gets upgraded into this powerful gun or whatever weapon you use, and it's great. Because in the first game, you didn't really have that advantage. You had this kind of weapon, and it's like, okay, I'll just use this. But in the second game, you have a powerful weapon each time you use it. You would level up like a Pokemon in a way. So it's cool to have it. There's great weapons. There's like the Seeker, the lava gun. It's just great to look for the weapons in there for the most part. But they added other elements to the second game as well, because you do space battles and hoverbike races.
Yeah, I mean, even though that the hoverbike races were in the first game, they actually expanded it a lot more in the second game. And also they introduced the tournament battles as well, in which you can be able to rack up on points and upgrading your weapons and money so you can be able to buy more stuff. So, yeah, a lot of the stuff that a lot of people take for granted in Ratchet and Clank was introduced in the second game.
Oh, yeah.
It's very much a balance of RPG meeting platformer, which is something that really wasn't really done at the time. Like, platformers were pretty standard. You know, you hop from place to place. It's pretty much like a collectathon. You've played these, like Banjo-Kazooie. You know, this was the game that was like, well, can we blend both? Like, using weapons, can we reward you for using a certain weapon that you tend to favor? So your weapon levels up. You know, stuff like that, getting, like, new armor. I believe there's also, like, there are attachments to Clank, too. He had, like, a helicopter pack at one point. He had, like, a jetpack at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I remember there was a reviewer known as Gexup, and he talked about how in the mid-2000s, platformers had to shake things up to keep up with competition, so they would mix different genres. With Jak and Daxter's case, they mixed up the sandbox genre with, like, Grand Theft Auto. With Ratchet and Clank, they mixed up the RPG. With Sly Cooper, they mixed it with stealth. So they definitely needed to keep up in order for them to stand out compared to the competition.
Well, like, really, who was their only competition was, like, Nintendo, which
don't forget that Xbox was also trying to have their own version of platformers as well. Like, there was supposed to be Blinks the Cat, and
that went nowhere.
Yeah. And then there was this other video game in which, you were platforming and you get to, like, go through, like, various elements. The Oddworld games were in Xbox, like Munch's Odyssey and Stranger's Wrath.
Taylor, what was that game that studio was holding hostage? The one with the chick and the pig? Like, they've been holding this people hostage?
Yes.
Beyond Good and Evil.
Beyond Good and Evil, yes. They are going to release this
hostage for years.
Yeah, and guess what? They did reveal that they're making a Beyond Good and Evil 2, and it's a prequel.
Oh, go fuck yourself. Are you kidding me?
I'm not joking.
Yeah.
They'd be like if Disney fucked with us. Hey, we got Star Wars. Yeah? And guess what? There's going to be a prequel series before the prequels. Go fuck yourself.
I know, it's sad. Beyond Good and Evil had a cliffhanger, and we're never going to know about what happened, because now the second game is a prequel. Way to go.
Yeah, that was a pretty shitty cliffhanger, too.
Now you can know the build-up to the game that won't give you an ending.
Wait, yeah, I can't wait for Beyond Good and Evil 3 for 20 years from now. Will it actually reveal something?
It's funny because, like, the thing about Nintendo that kind of surpasses the other two companies is that, like, Nintendo, because it's strictly Nintendo. Mario's Nintendo, Zelda's Nintendo, freaking Punch-Out, all these games. Like, they have so many different games that can compete in so many different genres, and they own it all.
Yes.
And Sony kind of, like, wishes they could do that, because have you ever noticed their franchises kind of fall by the wayside? Because it's like, oh, we did Medieval, 2 games, no one gives a shit. We did Jak and Daxter for, like, 3 games, and then, like, nobody gave a shit. We did Ratchet and Clank for 4 games, and then we changed it entirely into something else, and then no one gave a shit, so we rebooted it, so we made a big cinematic commercial, and, like, nobody cared.
Yeah, that's the thing that I have to give Sony, is that unlike Nintendo, in which they continue on their franchises, every single generation they feel like they need to create a new franchise to capture the new generation of kids, or just, show to the older crowd that, hey, we can do something completely different. We don't have to stay to the same formula.
And they keep, like, shooting themselves in the foot like that, though, too, because it's like, they keep trying. It's like Sega. One of Sega's biggest problems right now is that, for some reason, they can't seem to get Sonic to work. He's still popular by all means, but you ever notice, like, they keep changing every single game?
Yeah, and it only took people who are only fans of Sonic to create the only good Sonic game that people actually didn't hate on.
Because no one wants something new with Sonic. They just want the stupid blue rodent to run and collect rings. Nobody was asking for him to turn into a Hulk or rip off Mario Galaxy and do Sonic Colors. Nobody was asking for him to be fighting the Black Knight or fighting a Jin. Nobody was asking for, like, them to overly innovate Sonic.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like, the thing about, like, the Ratchet and Clank games is that they were simple, small space operas.
Yeah.
It was like the first game is just the hero's journey. He's just a little dude from a planet. That's it. There's nothing else. There's nothing complicated about Ratchet. He doesn't have some deep thematic arc. His dad didn't turn out to be the Dark Lord of the Sith. None of that. He was just some guy. He was every casual gamer out there who, oh, I like playing video games, but I'd like to get something more. He was a mechanic. He just wanted to get something more. Play the first game, it's a brilliant setup. The second game is where they were like, okay, we have our toy box. Can we do better with our toys? We got so many new weapons. We got a great villain in the Thugs for Less leader, played by Steve Blum, who is easily one of the funniest guys ever. Like, that character is beyond hilarious.
Yeah, he was pretty funny.
Everything from, like, talking about how, like, his like horrible marriage that fell apart and how he got divorced, which is so fucking sad. Because you kind of start to empathize with him. The fact that like when you get deep down, his first off, his business is great. They're all a bunch of mercs, but like they share like this hilarious family quality. So like they talk about like going to like big business retreats and they do like test exercises. And there's actually like this hilarious camaraderie where at one point he's talking and he's having like a big meeting, and at one point as they're having the meeting, somebody turns on the lights because he has the lights specifically turned down to look more ominous.
Yes.
And in the middle of the meeting, someone turns on the lights and he goes, "Hey, turn off that light. It's bad feng shui." What was I going on about this? Yeah, this reminds me, guys. Don't forget to bring your own juice boxes this time. And then the lights go back on. I saw that, Cletus. Next time you do that, you're earning yourself a write-up. And you're like, oh my god, this is hilarious. He's like a boss and a friend. It's such an interesting villain dynamic. And it's funny because like it starts to enter basically the games from the second game onward. It enters Disney territory where it's like, okay, we know our villains aren't going to be really deep or philosophical, but if we can make them entertaining, they become iconic.
Yeah.
Because if you really think about it, if you look at a Disney flick, certainly I think we can all mostly agree, we remember villains more than we'll remember the hero from those movies. You'll remember Ursula long before you remember Ariel. You'll remember Yzma long before you remember Cusco. With Ratchet Clank are great characters. They're very cool and charismatic and fun, but at the same time, they're a little bit one note. And the same thing goes for their villains. But the villains have so much winning personality.
Yeah, I definitely do agree. The villains definitely make up for, the characters in this game. Especially the games from the earlier ones, because they didn't try to be so incredibly dramatic.
Yeah, and that's where I think things started to fall apart, is like, Thugs for Less leader. There was no grand plan. The dude was hired to do a job. That was it. His company was hired to do a job, and dang it, they were the best at what they did, and what they did was doing their job. Like, it was that simple. It wasn't complicated. It wasn't anything more than that. It didn't try to go bigger than it needed to. And I think that's the thing, is like why I ended up falling off when they moved past the initial set, was that Sony has always been about trying to be big and cinematic. And they don't realize it's like, the charm about like Nintendo, they're never too big for their britches.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, let's just take, for example, this year's E3. So there was like this huge Microsoft conference about how they're getting their techs higher, they're increasing their gigabytes and their hard drives, they're releasing all these games with like this new set of graphics and all that stuff, and people were just like bored to tears. But then when Super Mario Odyssey showed up, everybody was like, yeah, I want to play that game, that looks so much fun, and everybody was like happy. Everybody just couldn't stop talking about that trailer.
I think it comes part of the dynamic of us as gamers, where it comes down to like, I don't give a fuck how the sandwich is made. Just give me a really good sandwich. That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you don't need another dichotomy. Oh, well, this is how Nathan Drake could do. I don't give a fuck how Nathan Drake does the thing that he does. I just want to do the thing I like to do with Nathan Drake. I don't care about all the minutia about it. And that's the bummer, is like, Sony keeps fucking up too, because like, they had Crash Bandicoot, and they fucked that up. They sold it to another company, they completely changed the dynamic of the game. People thought the first new change was fine. No one liked the second one, and then Crash kind of died. And then they stuck them into Skylanders, and for that brief moment, we were all kind of excited. And it's like, this is okay. They even put him in an episode of the Skylanders cartoon show. I actually watched the entire first season. I don't know why. And I was like, oh, sweet. They're going to have Crash Bandicoot. It should be this big crossover. It's going to be like cross-promoting both Crash Bandicoot and Dr. Cortex, because they're going to be on that game.
Are you talking about Spyro?
Yeah, the terrible Spyro show with that toy line.
Yeah, I remember when Crash was revealed to be on the Skylanders, and I remember everybody was like really disappointed about that until eventually, like a year later, that's when they revealed that they were doing the Insane trilogy to get Crash Bandicoot back into relevancy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's like the detriment, is like, oh boy, Crash Bandicoot, and he shows up in an episode, and that's it. Yeah. Dr. Cortex doesn't even show up.
Ah, that sucks.
You could have had a big... on top of that, happens in the middle of the season. It's not even like a big finale where it's like Crossing of the Worlds, Dr. Cortex teaming up with Chaos. Nope. Just Crash shows up in the middle of the season. He, off the cuff, mentions, I have to get back to stop Dr. Cortex. Oh.
Bye.
If I don't know what Cortex is, what relevance is this to me? Goodbye. Oh.
He just floats away.
Although the good news was they did make him Australian.
Okay, that's good.
Like he actually speaks with like a very noticeable Australian accent. He speaks English, and he's actually got a great personality. So much so that because I already hated Spyro on that show, because he's just a prick. When Crash shows up, I'm like, oh, I could be following this guy. I could have an animated Crash Bandicoot show.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they will do an animated Crash Bandicoot show if the Insane trilogy does well.
They should, like, if Sony wants to do something really cool, pull a KH and have, like, Crash, Spyro, Jack and Daxter.
Oh, but Nero, didn't they do that for the fighting game?
Right.
But all they were doing was just, like, dick riding Nintendo again, because it was just, like... You know, the thing that sucks about that game compared to, like, Smash, and, yeah, I'll admit, this is part of the Nintendo fandom in me, but the fact is, like, Nintendo owns these characters. Like, it's cool to see Mario and Peach and Link and Ganondorf and see all these cool, iconic characters together. It's really cool because these are properties they all own and we never get to see them cross over. And then they have the occasional third-party guy, which is like, holy shit, they got Sonic the Hedgehog because Sonic's so desperate for a win right now, he'll blow anybody. They'll have, like, Snake appear, and that's pretty great. And then you go over to the Sony one and you're like, man, you guys didn't have shit. You had to, like, just cash out left and right. And then it's like, it's just kind of weird when you see it, because it's like, we got Fat Princess, yeah? And Big Daddy, huh? And, Sweet Tooth? And you're just like, what the fuck is happening? Sir Daniel Fortescue? No one even remembers that fucking character. You guys gave him 2 games, then you shit-canned him.
Yeah, it's crazy how Sony deals with their mascots. It's like, you know, some of them we like to bring out of the vault, and others we just expose them to no end. It's just crazy.
Well, it's funny because they did like what is it called? The Insanity Trilogy.
Yeah, the Insanity Trilogy. Yeah, for Crash and Spyro.
And yet, interestingly enough, they do that game. All of a sudden, they changed every voice actor to the ones that were on the bad games. And I like the voice actors they got, though. John DiMaggio as Uka Uka is phenomenal. But, like, even I was like, did you guys change everybody? Because then it's like you listen to the characters and you're like, well, Cortex sounds different. Dr. Engine sounds different. Crash is clearly different. The only character you kept is Coco.
Yep, they brought Debbie Derryberry back as Coco.
She ain't doing much. She's like a platypus. They don't really do much.
Oh boy. Anyway, so yeah, I think we've gone off track for like over 15 minutes. So I'm sorry, everybody.
This is tying back to like the whole mascot thing. Though, is like they have something so special with Ratchet and Clank. Mm-hmm. Like, they have villains with personality. They have fun protagonists. Even Quirk, who's kind of a lovable dick. Still a fun kind of goofy character. And yet, it seems like this was a franchise they purposely somehow sank.
Yeah, it's true. I get that during the PlayStation 3 era, it was like, you know, mascots are pretty much like irrelevant. 3D platformers are no longer popular. If we are going to have 3D platformers, we need to appeal them to the older audience because it just, you know, nobody really cares about them anymore. So I guess, you know, with, Naughty Dog was doing the Uncharted series, and then Insomniac was doing the Resistance series with the first person shooter, you know, with the Chimera and all that stuff. I guess if they were going to do Ratchet and Clank, they had to go in a different direction, trying to make it like, oh, we're going next gen now. So I guess I can see what they were doing. Anyway, so going into our discussion. So yeah, the second game definitely, I think in my opinion is better than the first. Story wise, weapon wise, all the additional things that they added in. I still think it's a great game. Now the third one.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Holy crap, the third one. I remember when the third one was announced, like, I remember reading it on Game Informer and, like, all the stuff that they were going to be adding into the third game. And I remember, like, seeing a commercial of it. I remember those old Ratchet and Clank commercials where it was kind of, like, similar to, like, the Spiral commercials in which you, like, see Ratchet and Clank and then they're showing off whatever weapon they were doing and then it pretty much destroyed everything. And, it cuts into the gameplay. So I remember for Ratchet and Clank about all the amazing weapons that they had and the different locations and the fact that you can be able to, transfer from the previous games, all the weapons that were in the previous games. And, it's safe to say for a lot of people, Nefarious is their favorite villain in Ratchet and Clank.
It's hard for him not to be.
Yeah.
He's such an asshole, but he's such a lovable asshole too. Because I kind of get where you're coming from.
Yeah, the fact that he was just this nerdy loser and, Captain Quark was constantly making fun of him, and then Captain Quark pushes him off into a conveyor, gets completely crushed and destroyed, and now he turns into a robot, and now he wants to get revenge on Quark and turn everybody into robots and destroy all the squishies.
Yeah.
He's got that charismatic personality. He's got that great relationship with his sardonic robot butler, Lawrence.
Yes.
The fact that Nefarious is such a high-end, he's a high-end machine. He's a fully functional, automaton who has free will, which is something that's mostly unheard of in robots, and yet he hilariously somehow shorts out and plays Mexican soap operas. that's fucking funny. He gets so angry that he has a seizure, and then he freezes in place, and Lawrence just has to bitch slap him to say, like an old jalopy rabbit ears and tube television set from the 80s. You just have to bitch slap it and it fixes itself.
Absolutely.
And in a way, by creating this character with Dr. Nefarious, they created essentially what becomes the Bowser. Pretty
much. You're absolutely right. Chairman Drek or, even Quark do not become the main villains or even the iconic villains of Ratchet and Clank. It's Nefarious who gets into it. And you know what? At this point in time, especially with the two previous games, I kind of don't blame them. I mean, the other villains that they introduced later on, they just weren't really that interesting. So, yeah, I can definitely see that Nefarious became the Bowser of the Ratchet and Clank franchise. And the whole segment with, Courtney Gears and all that stuff.
Yeah, and she gets her... It's great, too, because in that game, they stopped to give her an actual music video about murdering organic life.
Yeah, and she's voiced by Melissa Disney, the voice actress behind Ginger Foutley and As Told by Ginger, who I actually spoke to 3 months ago.
Did you ask her, so, sing a song about murdering humans?
I didn't ask her about that. I doubt that she would have remembered it anyway, about the song.
Do you remember that, arbitrary character that you played that they never brought back?
Yeah, they only had her in that one game. Sure, she was referenced in Deadlocked, but she was never brought back again. Yeah, you're right.
And it's weird. She was made to look very seductive too in character design.
Yeah, true. And she was a parody of Britney Spears, which I can understand why they didn't bring her in later games. I mean, I think nowadays if they were to bring back a similar character, they probably would have done a parody of Lady Gaga or something.
Yeah, or they'd be Justin Bieber, and he'd be this asshole kid robot that spits oil on his fans and says racial obscenities, and people are like, man, that Justin Bieber kid, sure, it's an asshole.
Oh.
Actually, I kind of want to see that now just so you can kick the shit out of him.
That would be hilarious. I'd like to see that, too.
That'd be kind of badass. This thing, though, it's funny. This goes back to the Nintendo thing. Nintendo creates iconic characters. Is it annoying a little bit that, it's always Ganondorf or it's always Bowser? A little bit. But that's part of the iconography, which this goes back to, the Sega argument. How many Sonic games do they keep making where it's not Dr. Robotnik as the lead antagonist?
A lot of them. And even and to be fair, even Zelda has led up to like different villains. Like they have Zant, they have Agnem, they have.
But Zant got sidelined because Ganondorf took over that game.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there's Agnem, which again sidelined for Ganon. There's the villain from not Twilight Princess. The villain from Skyward Sword. But then again, that was a prequel, so Ganon wasn't around.
Prequel Ganon Demise.
Oh, there's Demise too. Yes, so yeah, they have played around with different villains in Zelda, but yeah, none of them as iconic as Ganondorf.
People like comfort. People like. It's not that we like repetitiveness. We like a villain with personality.
Yes,
that's why it's like Wind Waker. Ganondorf is phenomenal in that game. It's arguably my all-time favorite written version of him, narratively speaking.
Yeah,
and the thing is like. Sony clearly was having trouble with that because it's like, okay, we had Chairman Drek, he dies. Then we had the Thugs for Less leader, and he goes to jail. But then they hit Nefarious, and everybody, it's like unanimous. People love Nefarious as an antagonist because he's just a lovely, charismatic dick.
And everybody loves those.
And that works. People like Q from Star Trek. People love Discord from My Little Pony.
Yeah, everybody just loves the lovable dick.
It's just a character trait. It's the same thing like Spike on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Spike was supposed to die, but Spike was so liked, and he was a lovable dick. So they made him a main character.
Yeah,
so
and even main
the 15th of Angel.
Yeah, even main protagonists are becoming lovable dicks. Like, Don Draper from Mad Men, and Walter White from Breaking Bad, Rick from The Walking Dead. Insert name from Game of Thrones. So
Rick from Rick and Morty.
Well, I haven't seen the show, so I can't say anything about it.
Oh, he's a dick.
Yeah, he's a major dick.
Oh, yeah.
Dick.
I from the clips that I've seen, I believe you.
It's just like that. And that's the thing that was like Nefarious, though. There's something so charming in everything from he's psychotic, he's sadistic, he's hilariously racist. Like, you wouldn't think racism would be funny. He makes racism funny.
In a way, you're right. I mean, it's like the only thing he wants to do is destroy organic life forms. But he even did it to Skid McMarks in like one of the levels of the game, and it's not like incredibly like dramatic or like painful or disturbing. It's funny.
It's funny because Robotnik, same thing. Roboticize everything.
Yeah, there you go. So
and
yeah,
iconic again.
Yes, exactly. There you go. Wants to take all the baby cute animals and turn them into robots. So yeah, and let's see another thing. I mean, yeah, definitely. When they basically took everything from the second game, and they upped it up. They added in so many things from the previous two games. They added in a great villain. They also try to add in the whole multiplayer thing. It's like when in various missions, Ratchet and Clank go off and they fight off. Trying to defend various fortresses, and they go off and they just they fight off against like the various just those little creatures. I forgot what they're called, but yeah, it definitely tries to make it like it's trying to be like a first person like multiplayer shooter game in which like you have to destroy this amount of enemies at this time, and you have to go and defend this fortress. You have to go and drive this tank, and you're trying to clear out and defend these 5 locations or whatever. So yeah, they were definitely trying to play around with different things for this game. They also had a multiplayer, which I think I've only played like once in my life, and it was like during the time in which like the PlayStation 2 like online multiplayer was just shutting down, so I didn't find anybody to play with. Yeah, I mean, I wish that the HD collection they would have included in that multiplayer, because I think it would have been a lot of fun.
I think that was the only detriment, is that while I appreciate them for being experimental, because that's where the Ratchet and Clank games really excel at, is they're always trying to mix and match genres. The multiplayer thing feels like it's sort of just a tacked on add-on, because Ratchet and Clank isn't a multiplayer game initially it's a platformer. Imagine all of a sudden it's like, what if we added like, you know, a tank scene in a Mario game?
They are in Odyssey. There is going to be where you control a tank.
God.
Right.
That game is giving me such Sonic 06 PTSD, like when I think about it.
Well, not only that, in Odyssey you get to control a T-Rex, you get to control the Goombas and Koopa Troopas, you get to control a person and a taxi cab. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Just imagine Mario just running over people at the taxi cab.
Yes, I'm looking forward to this game actually. But yeah, I know what you're saying, that, you know, trying to add in something that it's not, it just makes it feel incredibly muddled. It's like, it's already mixing in multiple genres. You know, too many cooks in the kitchen. You don't need to add all this stuff in. It's already fine the way it is.
I thought it was a stretch already when it's like, they added the Galactic Rangers, and I'm like, yay, all these superfluous characters that I'm never going to give a shit about, and they ended up rebooting the franchise anyway, so...
Yay!
Yeah, and I think they changed them all, by the way.
Yeah, they did, because I remember seeing, like, pictures of the Galactic Rangers, and they look nothing like that. The Galactic Rangers were, like, in, like, robot suits, and they were green, and when I saw them, they were, like, in blue. It's like, I don't even remember any of these characters, and... you know, they were like cowards, and, you know, Ratchet and Clank had to be the one to save them, and now they're like all tough, and they're, you know, from what I remember looking at a clip from some review, it's like they're treating Ratchet like a rookie. It's like, dude, don't do that. You know, Ratchet knows what he's doing. It's
why are you shitting on the main character of your franchise now? Maybe like, hey, we made Crash Bandicoot, but have you heard of his cool counterpart, Smash Bandersnatch? And you're like, what the fuck? It's his cool cousin, and he makes the main character of the franchise look like crap.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and I guess, you know, I guess this is where they got the idea for Deadlocked, is like, you know, the whole multiplayer shooting and going around and doing various tasks. I think
that's just popular.
Yeah, this is so popular. Let's see if we can make it into a spin-off title. So, and you know what? I mean, Ratchet Deadlock is pretty decent. I don't hate this game. I know what they were trying to do. It's similar to when they did Jack X Combat Racing, in which, like, let's do a spin-off title in which, you know, Jack and Daxter is good at racing because he did racing in the other games. So now, you know, let's have Ratchet and Clank going around and shooting a whole bunch of things because kids love the shooting.
There's a setup for a crossover right there.
Oh, you know, and you want to know the sad thing? The only time in which they did a crossover was what they were like. There was two instances, you know, in Jack X Combat Racing, you can unlock Ratchet if you had Ratchet Deadlock, and Ratchet could actually be in the race. And then there was also a golf game where Ratchet and Jack were playing golf, and they had, like, various, like, Sony mascot characters if you unlock them. But they never joined in a game together. Why didn't they? Because Crash and Spyro did Twinsanity. Why didn't they do a Jack and Ratchet reboot?
And that one made even less sense when you think about it, because think about it like this, okay? There's a planet, and on that planet is Jack and Daxter.
Yes.
All you have to do is get the fucking Lombax and the robot in a spaceship and get them to land on the fucking planet. That's all you have to do. Have a new villain come in. They are attacking Jack's planet, and then that villain is make it nefarious. I don't give a shit. Everyone loves him anyway.
Yeah. Why don't you have Nefarious team up with the you know, the metalheads, and then you can throw in Errol if you want, and, you know, try to see if you can have this big build up. You know, try to throw in the weapons for both of the games. You know, have a little bit of platforming, have a little bit of the racing. You know, Jack with the racing and Ratchet with the hoverboards. So yeah, I think that could have been a lot of fun because Jack doesn't take place on Earth. It's a completely different planet. It's a planet filled with elves. So yeah, I could have seen, like, Jack and Ratchet.
The setup is right there.
Yeah, I just don't know why. I guess because maybe Naughty Dog and Insomniac were focusing on doing their other franchises that wasn't Jack and Ratchet. So I guess we never had the crossover people definitely would have liked to see.
It's great because you have, like, an interesting buddy comedy dynamic, because you have the stoic Jack, tough but kind of, you know, goofy Ratchet, lovable Clank, who's, like, quirky and cute, and the annoying as fuck member of the team, Daxter.
Yeah, and they also reference each other a lot. Like in Jak 2, you see Ratchet and Clank on a billboard. In Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal, Ratchet is doing the Jak and Daxter dance when they catch the precursor orb. So they have referenced each other. They do know each other's existence.
They reference it in the movie, too. There's like a part where somebody's going through a screen and there's a picture of a fucking Otzel, and it's Daxter.
What?
Yeah.
And it's like, is that going to get a cool animated film?
Oh, now I'm crying to know that we'll probably never will. I know that they're doing a Sly Cooper movie, but they're not doing.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they're not doing that now.
Oh no!
The Ratchet and Clank movie did so bad they shelved. They pulled the plug on that project.
Oh man, that's so sad. It looks so good too.
It was finished. From the rumors I had heard, it was finished.
Oh.
Yeah.
And they're not even going to release it. And that baffles me. It's like, put it on fucking Netflix at least.
Oh man, now I'm.
You spent the money. You had it made. It'd be like Patricia, it'd be like, hey Patricia, I made this sandwich. I'm just gonna put it in the fridge. That last sandwich wasn't good enough. Fuck it.
I'm sad now. I'm really, really sad.
That's Sony in a
We were
nutshell.
sad too.
Because no, and the thing was like Taylor and I, we sat through the Ratchet Clank movie. It's like, okay, this wasn't as good as we would have liked it, but you know what? Fine, whatever. At least we have, that Sly Cooper movie to look forward to.
Yeah, in terms of video game movies, it's pretty just all right.
It's serviceable.
Meh.
All right, you know what? We'll talk about that later because I really want to know about what this movie's about. I mean, yeah, we'll get to it. So, yeah, Deadlock, out of the original PlayStation 2 games, Gleeman Vox is definitely the most forgettable for me. He's trying to be like Drek, and it's like, he's like this, he's like the boss of of like this, big galactic game show, and the only thing he's interested in is like money and power and getting all the ratings higher, and that's basically all that it's leading up to. And I just didn't really care about him. Even like his lackey, who was like this superhero similar to like Chairman Drek and Quark, and the superhero who was like competing against Ratchet so he can stay up on the top and stuff like that. I mean, sure, I like the fact that you can customize your weapon into like a whole bunch of elements, and that it can make it go faster and give it more bullets and all that stuff. And you do get to go back into like previous planets that were in the previous games, and the fact that the announcers were actually really hilarious. Yeah, I think that the fourth one is not. It's okay for what it is. It's okay for being like a gladiator combat game, but as a Ratchet and Clank game, it's a little bit disappointing. The story's not that great. The villain's not that great. The weapons are kind of forgettable. But it's nice to see that Ratchet and Clank were trying to take a risk. And I mean, I guess it was like the last half decent game because, oh man, I'm really mixed about the future series. Like, on the one hand, I do like the graphics on it. I do like the fact that they added in, like, the new weapons. I do like the Groovatron. I like that Ratchet and Clank are a lot more detailed and that the planets are a lot more detailed. But, man, the story, I just couldn't care less about.
I think the thing is, too, with, like, Gleeman Vox is, like, we've seen that trope done better elsewhere.
Yeah.
Like a villain obsessed with entertainment, that's Mojo from the X-Men.
Sure. But, man, I mean, if there was any villain that I just could not care less about was Emperor Tachyon. The fact that, he was raised by the Lombax, and, then he finds out, I'm part of this, like, organization, I'm part of this other alien group, and I never felt like I was in place, and I'm trying to get rid of all the Lombaxes. It's like, I don't care.
Like, what's even the logic for that? I'm raised by these people. I should fucking kill them. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Imagine Mowgli. I was raised by wolves. I should fucking kill them. Yeah, Mowgli. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's what you should do, you little asshole.
Yeah, you don't need to wait for Shere Khan.
What a boring and forgettable villain.
Yeah, I remember practically nothing about Emperor Tachyon. He's definitely, like, I mean,
He was tiny, right? Like,
yeah,
he's like
this tiny guy, and he's like this, and he thinks like he's like trying to be incredibly threatening. It's like, Jeez, it's like I can't even take him seriously because he's
isn't there something about him design-wise? Doesn't it make you feel like he's supposed to be in like an Abe's Odyssey game or something?
Oh,
in terms of
yeah,
design?
you're right. Yeah, he does look like he should be in Abe's Odyssey or something because of the way he looks. He does look like that, but no, he definitely looks out of place for Ratchet and Clank. And his voice, I cannot take his voice seriously.
That's another archetype we've all seen. Look, here's a little prick who likes to fancy himself the big man. Shit, Whyboy, what was that terrible movie we watched with the chimpanzee?
Chimpanzee, a Space Tail.
Sparks the Space Tail.
That's it, yeah.
It's the same fucking villain! And the thing is, it's not like that kind of villain doesn't work, but like, is it just me, or are they all the same? It's some little asshole who thinks he's somehow more or better. It's mad, and like, hell, fucking Chairman Drek was that!
Yeah, exactly. Chairman Drek was a tiny, business-like, alien, and he tried to basically like tear apart planets and make his own. So yeah, he was like destroying worlds. And I mean, let's take a look at the villains. So we had Chairman Drek, who wants to destroy planets to make a new one. We've had the second game in which they're going to be releasing all these little creatures so they can dominate everything. Dr. Nefarious wanted to turn everybody into robots. And Gleeman Vox...
He wanted to get the rate. God damn. Man, you start to look back and it's like, fuck, even the Thugs for Less guy was better than that. Sure, he was just a dude getting paid to do a job. He was a blue-collar schmuck like anyone. But at least he was charismatic.
Yeah, that's true. But then you have Tachyon, who just comes along and he's like this emperor for these Kragmites, and they're going to destroy Ratchet because he's the last Lombax of the universe. It's like, I can concur. What about Angela from Tools of Destruction?
Maybe they got her already.
I mean, yeah. What about Angela? She was a Lombax too. You retcon and okay.
The thing is, you could have given it some Kratos if, like, they killed Angela.
Yeah, that is true. They could have killed Angela, like, maybe, like, in the beginning of the game, they capture or kill her, and then it's like, yes, let's go after the last Lombax. But, yeah, they didn't do that.
And that's the thing, like, it falls apart because, like, why is there so much importance on what his species is? Who the fuck cares? It was some weird fox thing from space.
Not to be confused with Star Fox.
Not to be confused with Star Fox. Again, Nintendo, you're better than everybody. But like, there was nothing special about the Lombaxes. That was it. It was just a species. It'd be like if all of a sudden, of course, the greatest creature in all of existence, the Bandicoot. No, man. It wasn't like the Bandicoot was special. Cortex was just fucking around with the animals from Australia.
Yeah, they really tried to overcomplicate things. They introduced Talwyn, who has this backstory about her father disappearing, and we never get a conclusion on that either. As far as I know, for playing, Quest for Booty or A Crack in Time, we never get the ending of that. I mean, we never find out about what happened to her father. I've never played Into the Nexus, so if you're wondering about that, I don't know what happens there, but yeah, I'm just confused. It's like, they try to make her into like a love interest for Ratchet, which, we already had that in Up Your Arsenal with the captain of the spaceship, so... Yeah, I mean, we kind of had that with Angela a little bit, and then we had the captain of the spaceship and Up Your Arsenal and Ratchet Deadlock, but then you try to throw in Talwyn, who has, like, this backstory, and then she has, like, these old robots who are trying to uncover the secret of the Lombaxes, and then, of course, then Clank also is in the mix, because, Clank, is being, Clank is being seen by the Zoni that he has, like, this huge task that he must do, and at least I can give it that. At least they give Clank some really cool abilities in the game, like being able to hover in the air and a whole bunch of stuff, so I can give it that. The abilities that Clank does get from the Zoni are really cool, but story-wise, I just don't care.
Yeah, but did he need to be like, oh, it's the soul of the son of the Zoni? No! What? He was just a small, poorly made robot! Why do you gotta make it so... You know what it is, too? It's because, like, fucking Xbox had, like, Master Chief, and Master Chief wasn't just a badass soldier. No, Master Chief was the greatest fucking spurt of them all. It's like, everyone needs to be the greatest thing ever. Meanwhile, you look at Nintendo. What's Mario's deal? He gets up, has breakfast with his little brother, snaps on his overalls, goes to work fighting a giant turtle. It's like he's not the last of the Italians or the plumbers or some bullshit. He's literally some chubby little dude. He lives with his little bro. They live in a nice little cottage together outside the kingdom, and whenever Princess Peach needs help, they're more than happy to step up. Holy shit, and it's worked for like 20 some odd fucking years. Ratchet Clank, they like change it every 4 fucking games.
Yeah, it is true. And, and also I do have to give credit. I mean, I wish that the pirates would have been the bad guys in this, because at least the pirates are funny. I like the pirate characters, but yeah, everything else about the game story-wise, I just didn't care. I mean, I do like the different planets that you go to. I do like some of the weapons. And I do like the graphics on it. It does look like it's, like, trying to be next-gen. It looks really nice. But, yeah, story-wise, I just didn't care. And then, of course, they had to leave it on a cliffhanger. And then we got a really, really disappointing game with Quest for Booty. I was one of those people who actually paid $40 for it. Yeah. I didn't know that it was going to be a game that lasted for 4 hours.
That's like $10. That's like $10 an hour.
Yeah, $10 an hour, exactly. That I could have been used elsewhere. But yeah, it does take place right after Tools of Destruction, where they're trying to find Clank because he was kidnapped by the Zoni, and we pretty much learn nothing. I mean, he gets, they get the obsidian eye, and they find out that Clank just happened to be captured by Nefarious. And then, throughout
Let's bring back the villain people actually like.
Yeah, I mean, the villains in this game are the pirates. We never see, Emperor Tachyon again because nobody cares about him. But, this game is relatively short. There's really nothing special about it. You're only in, 1 or 2 planets, and you wander around, and you solve various puzzles. You get the same weapons from Tools of Destruction. Yeah, I mean, it's just basically like DLC. And then, then that's revealed that, Clank was captured by Nefarious. And then we go over to A Crack in Time, which I actually really love this. I really love A Crack in Time, because A Crack in Time, it gives a lot of variety that the previous games lacked. Like, it had the space exploration, you had the tournaments again, you have Nefarious back as a villain, Clank has different various gameplay styles that don't feel like the same thing over and over again. You get introduced to, the guy who knew Ratchet's father, Alistair, which I thought was really cool. And it ended on a good note. If they would have ended the series right there, I would have been satisfied.
In terms of narrative, yeah, I get, again, my thing about Ratchet Clank has always been, I like the simplicity of it.
Yeah, sure. But if they were gonna, enhance the story, then I think A Crack in Time was the best thing that they could have done to end the story.
I'll give you that. I mean, I don't like things where it's like, and his dad is like the keeper of the Dimensionator. I'm like, Jesus fuck, man. He's the last Lombax, and his dad was like a keeper of some kind of great device? Jesus! What else? His robot has a soul from like the king of Dimension. I don't care. I don't care. Stop convoluting this shit. Come on. Take it back a little bit. He was a mechanic, man. He was just a blue-collar dude.
Oh boy. I mean, yeah, it does get complicated after a while, but like I said before, I mean, they did add different gameplay styles from the previous games, and they also concluded the story on a good note, and of course Nefarious is hilarious as always. So,
was that the one where they had the Valkyries?
I think yes. I think that
I adored the Valkyries.
Yeah. And of course, Nefarious having that infamous joke about, welcome to the center of the universe, give or take 50 feet.
which is funny, because technically anywhere you would start, you would have a center to the universe, theoretically speaking.
Sure.
If it's ever expanding, theoretically any place is the center.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Valkyries are great, because they show up, and I remember I lost my shit when this happened. It's he introduces them, and it was Karina, Cassiopeia, and Libra. And he introduces Karina, and she's got this seductive French accent. And then he introduces Cassiopeia, and she has this seductive, effeminate voice. And then he goes, and Libra. I have no reason here. How you doing? And she crushes like a beer can against her forehead, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yes, I know, it's hilarious.
For no apparent reason, it's like, and we got Fred Tattyshaw to play one of the chicks. Oh, because like Carrie Walgreens, the French one, and she sounds hot, and then like Cressida is Cassiopeia, and she sounds hot, and then all of a sudden, Libra, how you doing? From Planet Brooklyn. Of course. As you do. But my God, like, the Valkyries, even though they were new villains, they were still entertaining. And I think one of them had a fling with Dr. Nefarious?
Yeah, I think so, yes.
Which I don't even remember which one. I think it was Cassiopeia, but in my head, I'm just like, he should have been with Libra. It just would have been funnier that he's dating the one with the man voice. I just have one scene where it's like, listen to her sultry tones. It's good to be a hard-looking lady. It's magnificent. She's like a siren.
Oh, that would have been so funny, yeah.
Like, that would have been priceless. And the Valkyries are like the closest things where it's like new villains. Hey, these ones are kind of memorable.
Yeah, I do admit that they kind of were if they were given more screen time. But of course, you know, we have to focus on, you know, Ratchet's family past and Clank, you know's place with the Zoni and being the timekeeper of the universe. So I guess, you know, because with the combination of that and, you know, the Nefarious being the villain, I guess I didn't have time to flesh out the other villains, and that which would have been really awesome, by the way.
Like, Nefarious is basically like the Joker. Like, Batman's great, but when the Joker shows up, who gives a fuck about Batman? I got the Clown Prince of Crime, the Harlequin of Hate. Who fucking cares about Batman? Let's just go and trade with the asshole in the purple suit. It's the same mentality where it's like, oh, this is really interesting stuff about you know, Ratchet. We're learning a lot of things, and fuck squishies, yeah, Nefarious, fuck them.
Oh my God.
Hell, like I remember liking Vendra Prague. Like, her character design is especially cool, but like outside of that, it's like Vendra Prague, Space Witch, and then there's like nothing else. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Like, I remember her and her twin brother Neftin, and it's like, yeah, the Prague twins. There's like nothing. Like, they weren't even bad. It was like, yeah, cool Space Witch.
Yeah, that's true. I guess, you know, once again, they were trying to, I guess because this was the trilogy, and I don't know if they thought that they were going to have more games for this, because, you know, so basically they had to, like, finish with what they could, and I guess the most important thing for fans at the time was, you know, what was going on with Ratchet's past, and the villains just pretty much took a back seat into it. And I guess looking back on it now, yeah, it's a shame that those didn't get really built up. But other than that, you know, once again, like I said, I thought it was just really, really awesome. The fact that, you know, we were able, I mean, this was like the best Ratchet and Clank game that ever came out for like the PS3 era. Because after this, I just didn't really care too much about the spin-off titles. And I've never played Into the Nexus, so I can't really say about how that game is. If any of you guys have played it, let me know.
I don't even remember that one.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Okay, so yeah, that was supposed to be the final game in the Future series. So if that was going to be the final game in the Future series, it must have been like really good, or maybe it was really bad, because yeah, it is true that my friends actually did a Let's Play of it, and I like briefly paid attention to it, but I don't really remember anything about it. Like, I don't remember what the story was. I don't remember who the villain was. I don't remember anything about it. And I think for a lot of people, they felt the same way, because I don't hear anybody really talking about Into the Nexus.
Yeah, it's a pretty safe bet.
Alright, well, I'm not going to really talk about the spin-off titles. I've never played All for One. I've never played Secret Agent Clank. I've never played Size Matter. So if any of you guys have played it, let me know.
All you need to know about Agent Clank is he looks adorable in a tuxedo.
Yeah, he is pretty cute, I do admit. And you know, it's also really nice that, you know, Clank gets his own spin-off game that isn't involving with like guiding 4 robots into like a door so it can open up. So I'm really glad that they did get a game based off of the third Ratchet and Clank game.
If they gave Daxter a fucking game, like, the least they could have done was then give Clank a game, because Clank was actually likable.
That is true, yeah. But at least with, with Daxter, I do know that it was a mid-quel between the, taking place before Jack 2 and, all the things that Daxter did in order for him to find Jack in jail. And, Secret Agent Clank is basically like, Clank's TV show, what he was doing during the third game. So it made sense. Alright, now let's talk about the movie. And like I said, I've never seen the movie. I know you guys have, so I know it's supposed to be like a reboot and a change in the series and whatever. So, yeah, please just lay it on me.
It's basically, you take the first Ratchet and Clank, and then you add Nefarious.
What?
There you go.
Yep.
Wait. What?
Yeah, that's what Nefarious is. Like, Chairman Drek is the main bad guy. They created a character for Sylvester Stallone to play, which I need to remind you, seriously, Whyboy, I keep forgetting. Sylvester Stallone was in the fucking Ratchet and Clank movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was.
Then he died.
I constantly forget. Like, the other day, I was, like, flipping through on YouTube, and, like, a clip for it played, and it's like, how's it going? And I'm like, Stallone was in that movie! Man, he must have owed somebody a favor. He must have ran over a producer's dog or something, because it's really weird that he's even here. That character does nothing and then leaves like a fart.
It's true, yeah.
He just sort of like, he shows up, I hate Clank. Oh shit, are you gonna be like Clank's nemesis? You're gonna be like his bad guy?
Clank killed him halfway through the movie.
Yeah, all of a sudden, he got wet. Oh, seriously, robots can still rust in worlds where aliens are creating...
Wait, stop. He got wet. I mean, I can understand, like, in, like, various logic that, if a robot gets wet, it just stops, but Clank gets wet all the time. He swims around in, like, various missions with Ratchet when he has, the jetpack. Not the jetpack,
but Clank's not a piece of shit, apparently.
Yeah.
Because this guy, he got wet and he, like, rusted and died.
Yep. Immediately.
And, like, yeah, he like, died after, like, the first act, and it's like, well, and the thing is, Patricia, the thing that's like really weird, they kind of built up how much he hates Clank, because it's just like the first game. There's like a robot line, and then a tiny little robot comes out.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I mean, when Clank first gets out of the conveyor belt, you have this robot who wants to get after Clank, and because Clank grabbed the infobot talking about Drek's mission to take various planets. Yeah, so they were actually going to build up to this and make him into a character, but they did nothing.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing, too, because he's like, it's the deficient, and he's like, he really wants to kill Clank, because it's like some kind of slight against, like, the robot line this guy came from, and you're like, okay, so is there going to be, like, a build-up to this? No!
Oh, man. So that's done. So, yeah, Drek. So, Drek is not voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson, is he?
No, they replaced him out with an actor. They want Paul Giamatti. To be fair... Paul does a good job.
He does. But it's off-putting, especially if you know the first game. It's like you would expect that deep, deep voice from Kevin Michael Richardson. It's like a big change when you watch the movie.
Yeah, and also you were talking earlier in the podcast about how Drek is not just creating a planet for his people. Now there's like a shopping mall and apartments for rich people?
Well, I'm not sure. Just basically Rich Perkins Paradise sort of thing.
Yeah, he's basically trying to build like a gated community, if the gated community was a planet.
Yeah.
Huh.
Which is okay, that's fine. You want to add a little bit more to the villain. But the thing is, they decided, he's not the villain. Nefarious is the villain.
But
he's the popular one.
Drek is supposed to be the villain from the first game. Why is Nefarious even there? Nefarious and Drek have no connections whatsoever.
They do in this. It turns out that Chairman Drek needed a chief science officer, so he got the most brilliant mind there is. And he got Nefarious.
Okay, are we talking about like organic Nefarious or robot Nefarious?
Yeah, no, he's organic. They dramatically changed his redesign. When he's organic, he looks like an alien, so he's got green skin, pointed goblin ears, and an elongated head.
Oh my god, no.
I really love the redesign, because then when he becomes a robot, it makes sense why he looks the way he does.
Okay, fine. I guess the whole rounded head does kind of like doesn't make sense in that perspective. Sure, is he played by Armin?
Yes, he is.
Yes, I can at least get that.
And no joke, he is beautiful.
Yeah, he's the best part of the movie.
He is actually.
He's so goddamn funny. He actually has a story arc.
Oh, about Quark, right?
Yeah, unlike Ratchet, who doesn't have an arc at all, and is just kind of a dick. Seriously, this movie is so fucking weird because you completely agree with Nefarious's view. He just wanted to kill Quark because Quark's an asshole.
Yeah, well, that's the same thing in the third game, in which Quark was treating him wrong, and Nefarious wanted revenge. So, okay, I can see that. Although it's
basically
not only the fact that he treats Nefarious wrong, like they have a new science officer in their whole thing, and they're treating her like complete shit. Basically, just sort of having a cycle of basically torture in this thing.
Yeah, like they have the Galactic Rangers, but like the Rangers are all pricks. Because they have a science operative who makes all the cool gadgets you see, like in the game. Those gadgets are very much shoehorned into the movie. Matter of fact, there's a part where the movie stops just to show you the different weapons, to be like, "Hey, you remember all this cool shit that was in the video game?"
It's like a montage in the movie.
Well, hey, I mean, if they can, modify and modernize the things like the suck cannon and the Agents of Doom and stuff like that, okay, I'd be perfectly fine with it.
They don't come into the movie in any form of gameplay outside of...
Yeah, they basically just throw them in there and just like, ta-da, there it is.
It's like an Easter egg at most.
There are two weapons they do use, and it's both by Dr. Nefarious. When he turns on Drek, he shoots them, and he turns them into a sheep. And he's like... Wait.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The sheep weapon. That was in the first game, you're right.
The sheep, he hits him, he goes, Sheepinator.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorites. Yes. And he smiles, he's like, this is one of my favorites. And then when he fights Ratchet, he's like, this is my all-time favorite. I call it the Rhino. And then he looks at the camera, he goes, as in, rip you a new one.
Yes.
and he looks like he's really enjoying himself. And the thing is, the movie writes him, and I'm sure it wasn't intentional, you actually feel bad for him. Because he was a science officer who was part of the Galactic Rangers, and all they did was pick on him for his intellect.
Wow.
Like, oh, you're smart? Wow, what a fucking loser. They harassed him so much that he became psychotic.
Oh, man. That sounds awful. So, yeah. So, pretty much Drek is irrelevant in this movie.
Yeah, he's only there because he was in the first game. I don't understand why. If it's a reboot anyways, so it didn't even need to be the first game. You didn't need Chairman Drek. You could have easily had Dr. Nefarious as the main big bad, have maybe hire the Thugs for Less leaders as henchmen.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, if you wanted to do a Ratchet and Clank game, I mean, you didn't have to, stick to the first one if you weren't going to follow the first one.
Well, even then, you know Nefarious is only there because he's a fan favorite.
Yes, that is true.
Even they knew, man, no one gives a fuck about Chairman Drek.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do follow the game in a sense. Basically, Ratchet and Clank get together.
Okay.
They fly over to the main city, and that's how they become best friends.
Wait, they don't become best friends until the end of the game. Like, when Ratchet's planet is about to be destroyed, and Clank and Ratchet actually start connecting with one another. Throughout the time, Ratchet and Clank hate each other. They're bitter enemies because Clank fell for Quark's tricks of, helping out the galaxy, and Ratchet was pretty pissed with it.
No, Patricia, you don't understand. They're best friends because they just flew over there.
Oh, my God.
They connected so much.
It's almost as good as Quark actually helping Chairman Drek to murder people and destroy planets just because he's jealous of Ratchet's popularity. And then they give him an apology tour.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah, they don't drop the ball. They fuck the ball, then they drop the ball.
And then squish the ball.
And then squish the ball. There's no ball to be had. How are we supposed to play a game?
You know what? I mean, and so, okay, so essentially it's a loose interpretation of the video game, except that they changed it all around, and they made Ratchet and Clank friends, and they have Nefarious there, and they show off the weapons, but they don't really use it until like a few minutes in, and, is the game better? Is the game better?
Well, you get to play a Ratchet and Clank game, so yeah, comparatively. I mean, all the movie really is, it's a commercial to get you to get off your ass to go buy the game.
Exactly.
Yeah. And from what I've heard from other people, it's supposed to be the exact same story as in the movie, so it's definitely not written any better.
Okay, fine, but as long as it plays decently, then maybe, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted. It's like, I like the gameplay of Tools and Destruction. I couldn't care less about the story, so I don't know. I mean, I mean, from the way that you guys are telling the story, I'm really disappointed, because I remember when I first heard about that they were going to make a Ratchet and Clank movie, and I was so excited. I was, like, really excited. It's like, oh, man, finally, this will be a movie based off of a video game.
It's so obvious.
Yeah.
Like, it's so obvious of, like, video game movies, okay? We can all agree. They're pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only good video game movies out there are, you know, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and Wreck-It Ralph.
Okay, so one that's not even a video game movie, it's a comic book that has video game stuff in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the one that they actually had to create an original property to make a good video game movie.
Yes.
I will say there's another one that I personally like, one of the animated Resident Evil movies. Not the first one, the second one, because the first one just sort of has weird faces on all the characters.
I actually have a soft spot for the two Silent Hills. Not because they're a good adaptation. I just like seeing Pyramid Head in live action.
Do we count the Pokemon movies as well?
Here's the thing. They weren't a video game first. Weren't they an anime first?
No. The video game came first and then the anime.
Okay, shit, then yeah, we can count those movies, and are they... they're about some asshole who catches monsters and then puts them in his pocket. I guess it's not inaccurate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess Pokemon is the best video game movies we'll ever have.
Even though it's clear Ash has got to be retarded, because there's one movie where he hops on a train and his Pokemon are chasing after it, and he just keeps yelling, "Hurry up!" And you sit there and you're like, "You got Pokeballs, just call them the fuck back, you asshole."
Yeah. Stop making them run with their stubby little legs.
They're so slow. Just put them in the Pokeballs, you asshole.
The thing is about video game movies, I don't understand why there's such a difficulty in translation. And don't get me wrong, I love the bad ones, okay? I genuinely love the Super Mario Brothers movie. I adore it. To me, it's like if Frank Miller threw back like a bottle of Southern Comfort and decided, I'm going to write a Mario Brothers movie, and it's like, oh, they could jump good because they got bitchin' power boots, and it's like an apocalyptic world with fucking dinosaurs involved and shit, and you're like, okay, this isn't remotely like Mario Brothers, but fuck, man, it's like the drug-addled illusions of what a Mario Brothers movie would be. And in that regard, that's kind of cool. Is it the adaptation I would like? No, in a perfect world, Pixar or Studio Ghibli would be making Nintendo movies.
Yeah, or maybe in a perfect world, Nintendo wouldn't cancel that supposed, Legend of Zelda series on Netflix. In a perfect world, another Metroid 2 remake would be done by Nintendo. And maybe, possibly, that Dr. M64 can have a job working at Nintendo, because he did a great Metroid game and you should feel ashamed of yourself.
There's, do either of you guys remember the 2007 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated film? The one that Mako played?
I remember it. Yes.
You're not going to believe this. That studio actually made a animated pitch for a Legend of Zelda movie, and Nintendo said no.
Oh, come off that bitch. Jesus Christ.
And I'm like, man, I was so stoked. It's like, Nintendo, look at all these properties you got. Every one of those can be a movie or a TV show. Maybe not Kirby as a movie, because Kirby is a very flat protagonist, so it'd be kind of difficult. You'd have to have him be sort of like the tag-along to a more important character.
Yeah.
Like Meta Knight's Journey or something like that. But it's like Mario, easy. Metroid, easy. Zelda, holy fucking Christ. If we could squeeze so much blood out of those stupid Tolkien movies. Come on.
My God, yeah. I mean...
3 Hobbit movies. That was unnecessary. You could definitely make a Legend of Zelda.
Oh, boy. Yeah, it's true.
And then things like Ratchet and Clank, it's like, what a match made in heaven. It's a space opera. It's like Star Wars. How do you fuck that up? You fuck that up.
You know, I'm really disappointed in knowing about that because, you know, when I first heard about it, I was really excited. I wanted to see the movie in theaters, but then the more I heard about the reviews, the more I was like, I don't really want to watch it. And then I, you know, saw like a few clips online, and you know, then I just was like, yeah, maybe it didn't turn out so well. So I was very disappointed about it at the end. And as of right now, there aren't any more Ratchet and Clank games. There's not going to be another movie. So right now, Insomniac is working on the Spider-Man game. So we have no idea what their next project is going to be. So yeah, I'm hoping that Ratchet and Clank can go at least on a little hiatus because I think it deserves one. It deserves to have a few years of break. Insomniac works on some different stuff, and then, you know, maybe they can come back and, you know, I don't know what they're gonna do. Are they gonna continue with the reboot series? Are they gonna continue with like a brand new like series that is like continuing from the future series or its own thing? I don't know. So we'll just have to see how that turns out.
I'll give you some props though. For a $20 million budgeted movie, animation is astounding.
Yeah, they made it look really good.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of upsetting because you're like, I don't understand why Disney feels the need to be like, yeah, we dropped like $150 billion. Why?
That is true. I mean, you know, it's like with you know, various people have, you know, said regarding about like low budget movies. It's like with low budget you can get more creative, and you know, for something that was 20 million, that's pretty small for an animated film. You know, at least, you know, the animation, you know, looks, you know, as good as it could be for a video game based movie. So yeah, and it depends on what people see regarding about what you know, how much money you should throw in for a movie if you wanted to make it look good. So yeah, I'm curious about what the future of Ratchet and Clank will be. So I you know, what is to say? I have no idea.
I'd go television show, Netflix series.
Oh,
yeah,
Netflix series, yes. Well. Yeah, go Netflix series. I mean, whether they want to continue with the rebooted series or they want to, you know, focus more closely to the video games, yeah, I think that would be the next step.
I would say focus on the video games.
Yeah, like, hell, if anything, squash it, do a soft reboot again, and if anything, because the movie the way the movie ends is they defeat Dr. Nefarious, and then they do one of those stupid stingers that Marvel kind of made forcibly into movies now, where Nefarious is crushed under a device, and a tiny robot that they established earlier that can reconstruct machinery scans Nefarious and then starts to reconstruct him, but because it doesn't know how a biological entity is supposed to be, it reconstructs him, and then he just shows up in his robot form as if to say, yeah, here's that sequel that's not going to be made. And you're like, oh, okay.
Oh, great. It's the Super Mario Brothers movie all over again.
Yeah.
You're not going to... Like, God damn it, the end of that movie. You're not going to believe this. Yeah, you assholes think you're going to get a sequel.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Super Mario Brothers, Gem and the Holograms, Ratchet and Clank. Let's add that into the list, why don't we? Yeah.
At least, like, if they want to go television series from this, all they have to do, start the series, Dr. Nefarious comes back and he's a fucking robot, and just go from there. Don't even reference the rest of the first movie. Don't dive too deep into it. Just be like, Nefarious, I thought you died. I did, dickwipe. And then I got rebuilt into a robot, and I realized something. Fuck you, flesh bags. Move on from there.
I think that should be it for this episode. So, yeah, guys, thank you so much for coming on by. I really do appreciate it.
No problem.
We're happy to be here. You know, Ratchet and Clank is a cool series. Logically speaking, Ratchet and Clank, Jak and Daxter, it's weird how Sony hasn't made a good movie or a good cartoon off of these properties. There was supposed to be a Crash Bandicoot cartoon at one point. An opening pilot intro was made, sung by Jim Cummings, of all people. It went nowhere.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting. Because Carlos Ellis Rocky was Crash in the first game, so yeah. Mike, why don't you plug and promote your stuff?
Oh, you can check me out on YouTube on my YouTube channel. You can check it out at youtube.com/Mike Mixtape MM. I do Cinema Royale on there. I'm doing a bunch of other stuff on my channel, reviews and all that stuff, editorials. And yeah, subscribe there for my content.
All right, and Whyboy Nero, what do you got coming?
We got ToonGrin.com. That's our website where people can find all sorts of cool stuff. We have a YouTube channel, just at ToonGrin. You can find it there. You can even just find links on our main website. We've actually started branching out to Let's Plays. We started doing ToonGrin Plays, where Whyboy and I have been playing different video games.
Yep.
All right, fantastic.
You're setting up a channel for that right now, so that should be up by the end of the month.
Yeah, and we teamed up on a Scooby-Doo video game.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, well, looking forward to it. All right, thank you so much for listening, guys. Let us know in the comments below about what Ratchet and Clank game were you first introduced to? What's your favorite in the series? Are you interested in the original series, the future series, or the reboot series? And what are your thoughts on the movie? So yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Hope to see you around soon. Thank you for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye!
Ciao.
What's up, people? It's Party Gears. Are you feeling me, robots? I'm feeling you. I see the future, and what do I see? Robots going crazy across the galaxy. Can't stand organics, they're soft and squishy.